The crystal chandeliers of Grey auction hall poured cold light over marble floors. New York's elite leaned in their seats, waiting for the last lot. On the black pedestal in the center, under a white spotlight, an oval glass case held a single pendant. The Starlight pendant. Translucent white jade, haloed with diamonds and a curve of blue sapphires. 5 stones, then 3, then 1, like a tiny constellation. Isabella Winthrop felt the air leave her lungs. She barely heard the auctioneer. She only heard the words that mattered. Lot 58, the Starlight pendant, an heirloom from the Winthrop family, consigned by the heiress herself, Miss Sierra Winthrop. We start at $10 million. Miss Sierra Winthrop. Her fingers tightened on her clutch until her nails bit skin. That is my pendant. It had been locked around her neck when she was 5, her grandfather's hands shaking with pride. It had vanished the same night in the garden, and with it went his trust, the family's faith, and her place as heir. 20 years of being called careless, unworthy, too emotional. 20 years of watching Sierra stand where she should have stood. On stage, Nicholas Gray, president of Gray Auction Group, stood slightly behind the auctioneer, his tall frame half in shadow. His eyes swept the crowd with bored precision, until he saw Isabella stand. Her chair scraped the floor. Conversations cut off, cameras shifted, hungry. Maya, her assistant, grabbed her wrist. Bella, think. I have been thinking for 20 years. Isabella said quietly. She walked down the aisle, heels steady, black dress sharp against the velvet seats. The auctioneer tried to keep his smile. Miss, please take your seat. Bidding is about to begin. Isabella's voice rang out, clear and controlled. I object to this auction. The hall went still. Someone whispered. Is that Isabella Winthrop? The other Winthrop girl. The one who lost the heirloom. The one who faded while Sierra rose. Isabella stopped at the edge of the stage. This pendant cannot be sold, she said. It does not belong to Sierra Winthrop. It belongs to me. Gasps cracked through the silence. Camera flashes burst like small explosions. The auctioneer's smile thinned. Miss Winthrop, the documentation is complete. If there is a private dispute, this is not the time. This is not about feelings, Isabella said. It is about proof. She rolled up the sleeve of her right arm. On the inside of her wrist, faint but clear, lay a birthmark. A small crescent with dots. 5, 3, 1. A wave of whispers moved through the first rows. When I was born, Isabella said, voice steady. My grandfather commissioned this pendant. He told the artisan to match the sapphires to my birthmarks so no one could ever fake the heir. She lifted her eyes to the front row. Sierra sat there in a silver dress, perfect curls, soft pink lips. For the first time all night, her expression cracked. At her side, Agnes, Sierra's mother and Isabella's aunt, kept her own smile fixed. You call this the Starlight pendant, Isabella said. It is not a simple jewel. It is the Winthrop heir's seal. Open the case. The auctioneer stiffened. Miss Winthrop, protocol does not allow guests to handle the lot. Nicholas spoke for the first time. His voice was calm, but it cut. Open it, he said. The auctioneer hesitated. Mr. Gray, with a contested lot, we can reschedule and handle this in private. We will not sell a piece under a cloud. Nicholas replied. We confirm the truth now. Open the case. Security moved. Glass lifted. A guard, gloved and careful, brought the pendant down to Isabella. Up close, it was both weapon and wound. Isabella took it by the chain. Her fingers trembled once, then went still. She laid the cool jade on her wrist. The sapphires fell into place over the birthmark, stone over dot, curve over curve. 2 pieces of the same shape. The hall leaned forward as if pulled by a wire. This is what my grandfather designed, Isabella said softly. A match that cannot be faked. She turned her head toward the front row. Sierra, she called. Do you have a mark like this? Every gaze swung to Sierra. She rose slowly, smile strained. This is ridiculous, she said. Isabella has always been jealous. She lost the pendant. Grandfather trusted me to guard it. Now she wants to humiliate me. Agnes rose with her, voice smooth. Exactly. Isabella, dear, you lost the pendant as a child. No one blamed you. But you cannot stand here and accuse Sierra of theft just to feel better. Isabella let the words wash over her. If Sierra is the rightful heiress, she said, a simple comparison will clear this up. Show your wrist. Sierra froze. The crowd smelled blood. A reporter called. Miss Sierra, will you show us? Cameras pointed like a forest of guns. Nicholas watched Sierra's face. He had seen liars in every palace of money in this city. Hesitation was louder than any confession. Miss Sierra, he said. As the seller, you have an interest in proving there is no fraud. Why do you refuse? Agnes snapped. We will not turn this into a circus. If there is an issue, our lawyers will handle it tomorrow. Isabella's gaze sharpened. Tomorrow, this pendant could already be sold, she said. You buried the truth once. You will not do it again. Nicholas turned to the room. Gray Auction Group will not continue with this sale, he said. Lot 58 is withdrawn until ownership is resolved. A wave of sound crashed over them. Some groaned for the lost show. Others cheered for the drama. Cameras flashed faster. Isabella closed her fingers around the pendant. For the first time in 20 years, it rested where it belonged. The girl who cried in the dark garden was gone. The woman who took the heirloom back had just declared war. The press room upstairs smelled like coffee and hot lights. Cameras lined the back wall. Reporters sat in tight rows, eyes bright. At the front table sat Isabella, the pendant resting in a velvet tray between her and the microphones. Maya sat to her right, pale but steady. Opposite them sat Sierra and Agnes. New dresses. New makeup. No trace of panic except the tightness around their eyes. Nicholas stood to the side, arms folded, expression unreadable. To avoid speculation, he told the room. Both parties have agreed to speak. We will keep this simple. He gestured to Isabella. She leaned toward the microphones. My name is Isabella Winthrop, she said. 20 years ago, at a garden party, my grandfather placed this pendant around my neck in front of our family. He said it marked me as heir. She lifted her wrist, showing the birthmark again. He designed the sapphires to match this, she said. That was his safeguard. She set a small recorder on the table and pressed play. An old woman's voice came through the speakers. Yes, I remember, the voice said. Mrs. Agnes told me to take Miss Isabella to the back garden. She said the girl needed air. She told Miss Sierra to circle around and watch. Agnes went rigid. I saw Miss Isabella crying. The voice went on. The pendant was gone. Mrs. Agnes told me if I spoke, I would never work again. Isabella stopped the recording. That is Mrs. Anders, she said. She was our housekeeper for 30 years. This recording was made last week. Agnes leaned forward, eyes flashing. She was fired for stealing. She snapped. Of course she would lie. She was fired after she refused to lie. Isabella said. You told grandfather she stole jewelry. He believed you, like he believed you about me. A reporter raised a hand. Miss Sierra, earlier you refused to show your wrist. Will you now? Sierra's fingers clenched on the table. Agnes pinched her arm under the cloth. If you back down, we are finished. Sierra swallowed. Under the hot lights, she slowly rolled up her sleeve. Smooth skin. No crescent. No dots. No mark. The room erupted. Nothing there. So she knew. Fake heiress. Sierra stammered. It is very faint, you cannot see it here, the light, the makeup. The excuses sounded thin even to her. Isabella did not look away. You wore my pendant, she said. You took my place. And you took my work. She opened a folder and slid pages across the table. Maya tapped keys. The projector behind them lit up. On one side of the screen, a clean line drawing of a necklace, labeled with a competition logo and an anonymous code. On the other, a catalog page from Winthrop's recent Sierra signature line. They were nearly identical. This design won the New Horizons Jewelry Award 3 years ago, Isabella said. It was submitted under a pseudonym. I was the designer. She lifted another page. Teenager paper, sketchy lines, messy letters IW in the corner. Next to it, a glossy photo of a best-selling Winthrop piece. I drew this at 15, Isabella said. Sierra called it childish and threw it in the trash, or pretended to. Nicholas stepped forward then, holding a folder. When we prepared for this auction, he said, we received tips that some of Miss Sierra Winthrop's designs matched earlier works from other sources. We asked independent experts for a report. He handed copies to the front row. 8 of 12 pieces in the last 2 collections show over 80% similarity to existing designs, he said. Several match Isabella's sketches line for line. Sierra shook her head. I approved designs from the department, she said weakly. If there was copying, I did not know. Even Agnes did not look convinced. Isabella spoke over her. For years, you called me careless, ungrateful, difficult, she said. You told me I should be grateful to sell sketches for a salary, while Sierra became the face of my work. She looked straight into a camera. I am done being grateful for theft, she said. I will reclaim what is mine. The pendant. The credit. The name. A reporter asked. What will you do next? I will start with the truth, Isabella replied. Then I will move on to the boardroom. 3 days later, Winthrop headquarters felt like a glass fortress under siege. Reporters crowded outside. Inside, the air buzzed with fear. Isabella rode the elevator to the 20th floor. The pendant lay flat under her blouse, cool against her skin. In the boardroom, a long table was already full. Executives, lawyers, old board members. At the head sat Alexander Winthrop, her grandfather, white-haired, stern. Sierra and Agnes sat near him, faces pale. Their lawyers waited behind them. Alexander's gaze swept the room. We are here to address the damage to the Winthrop name, he said. Miss Isabella, you wish to speak. Isabella stood, remote in hand. Maya flicked on the projector. You have seen some of this on the news, Isabella said. Now you will see all of it. Slide by slide, she walked them through her sketches and the finished collections. She explained technical choices, tiny details only a real designer would know. No one interrupted. The similarities spoke louder than words. She ended the presentation and looked at Alexander. You asked why I did not come sooner, she said. When I was 15, you called me careless and stripped me of the heirloom. When I was 18, you told me my designs were too emotional and that Sierra understood the market better. You did not want to hear my voice. So you stayed silent, he said. No, she said. I found other ears. For 5 years I built my own brand in the shadows. Starlight. You all know the name. You just did not know it was mine. A murmur swept the room. Starlight had been eating their market share from below. While you sold my work under Sierra's name, Isabella said. I sold other designs under my own, hidden. She changed the slide. Charts appeared. Starlight's growth. Winthrop's slow slide. You have been running on borrowed brilliance, she said. On grandfather's old prestige and on my stolen ideas. That stops now. The general counsel cleared her throat. Whether we name a new heir or not, we must manage the scandal, she said carefully. Miss Sierra, the evidence is not good. Alexander looked at Sierra. Effective immediately, he said, voice heavy. You are suspended from all roles. You will step back from public duties while we investigate. Sierra shot to her feet. You are throwing me away because of her, she cried. Grandfather, I carried your legacy for 20 years. On a stolen foundation, Isabella said. That is why it keeps cracking. Agnes slammed her palm on the table. If you punish my daughter, you punish me, she said. You used us. You let the pendant move from one girl to another as it suited your balance sheets. I let my pride decide too fast, Alexander said sharply. I will not let it decide again. He turned back to Isabella. What do you want? He asked. Do you want us ruined? Do you want their heads? It would be easy to say yes, to demand everything. Isabella drew a breath. I want the truth public, she said. I want my name and work back. I want Sierra and Agnes out of the company. And I want control of the house I was born to lead. She clicked to another slide. Starlight's logo stood beside the Winthrop crest. You do not just need an apology, she said. You need a new story. You need to tell the world that the real heir was working in the shadows and is now stepping forward to fix what you broke. A board member scoffed. So we hand you the crown and hope for the best. No, Isabella said. You hand me the crown because I already proved I can build something without it. Mr. Daniels, the oldest member, chuckled softly. She talks like you did, Alex, he said. When you took over from your father. Alexander's face was unreadable. This is not only a business decision, he said. The family must judge as well. We hold a council tonight. He looked at Agnes and Sierra. And we do not hold it with our eyes closed this time. The Winthrop Estate Library smelled of smoke and old paper. Snow fell quietly outside the tall windows. Family members filled the room, faces tight. Alexander sat in the big leather chair by the fire. Agnes and Sierra kept close to him, as if proximity could still shield them. Nicholas stood along the wall as an observer. Isabella faced the room, the pendant a cool weight at her throat. Alexander spoke first. We will hear everything, he said. Then we decide. No more whispers. Isabella stepped forward. She handed out Mrs. Anders' signed statement, played the recording again, showed the artisan's notes describing the birthmark pattern. Some elders nodded slowly. They remembered that garden party. They remembered the way the pendant had glowed on a small girl's chest. Then Agnes stood. I made mistakes, she began, eyes glistening. When Isabella lost the pendant, I panicked. I feared Alexander would be too harsh. When Sierra found it, I told myself keeping quiet would protect a child from shame. She pressed a hand to her heart. I never planned to replace Isabella. It happened over time. Sierra was steadier. The company needed a calm face. Isabella stared at her. You hid the pendant, she said. You watched me carry the blame. You pushed me out of every room, then called it protection. Agnes' mask slipped. You were too proud, she snapped. Too stubborn. Sierra could be guided. Guided to sign her name under my lines. Isabella said quietly. Sierra burst out. I did not steal your life alone. Grandfather chose me. Mother pushed. You left. What was I supposed to do? Say no to everything. You could have refused to lie, Isabella said. You could have refused to wear my seal. Alexander raised his cane. Enough, he said. We all carry guilt. Agnes, you used my anger for your gain. Sierra, you accepted a crown you knew was not yours. Isabella, you ran instead of forcing me to face the truth. He pushed himself to his feet. We cannot undo 20 years, he said. We can decide what happens next. He looked at Agnes. You are stripped of all roles and voting rights in our companies and trusts, he said. You will receive only a modest allowance. You will not speak for this family again. Agnes gasped. After everything I did for you. You did it for yourself, he said. He turned to Sierra. You will resign from every position, he said. Your accounts will be audited. Any money tied to theft will be reclaimed. Sierra whispered. You are exiling us. I am holding you accountable. Alexander replied. You will not starve, but you will not live on stolen wealth. He faced Isabella. As for you, he said. You have cause to demand far worse. Do you want them destroyed? Silence fell. The fire popped. Isabella thought of every night she had stared at the ceiling, hating the people who had taken her place. Thought of the girl she had been, ignored in this very room. I do not want them near our name, she said slowly. I do not want them in this house or this company. I want them to stand on their own feet for the first time in their lives. She met Agnes' eyes. But I will not spend the rest of my life chasing them, she added. They are not worth that much of my time. Agnes laughed once, high and sharp. Listen to you, she said. You sound just like Alexander. Good, Isabella said. Someone has to. Alexander's gaze softened for a heartbeat. Then it is decided, he said. Agnes and Sierra will leave the estate by week's end. We will provide a small apartment for 1 year. After that, they are on their own. Sierra closed her eyes. We lost, she whispered. Alexander looked around the room. Tomorrow, he said. We decide who carries the name forward. Mr. Daniels muttered. The pendant decided long ago. When the council ended, people drifted out. Agnes and Sierra left through a side door, shoulders stiff. Nicholas approached Isabella by the fire. How does it feel? He asked. To win the first round. Like breathing after almost drowning, she said. It does not give me back the years, but it keeps me from living under them. Tomorrow, he said. You take back more than a pendant. She looked at the flames. Tomorrow, she said. I take back my story. The top floor conference hall of Winthrop headquarters was packed. Board members on one side, senior managers on the other. At the open end, a lectern and the Winthrop crest. Isabella stood behind the lectern, the pendant visible this time, a clear declaration. Alexander sat at the center of the U-shaped table. We face a choice, he said. We can cling to a lie and slowly bleed out, or we can accept our failure and change. He nodded to Isabella. Speak, he said. She met the eyes in front of her. Many had doubted her for years. Some still did. It no longer mattered as much as it once had. I will not pretend I do not want this seat, she said. I do, but I am not asking for a favor. I am asking you to look at the numbers and the story. She clicked the remote. Charts appeared. Starlight's growth curve. Winthrop's stagnation. Age breakdowns of customers. You know Starlight, she said. You have watched it cut into our sales. I built it with no dynasty name, no crest, just design and story. People responded because they saw themselves. She switched slides. Designs from the new joint collection appeared, old motifs twisted into fresh shapes. If you name me heir, she said, I will fold Starlight into the house as proof that we can evolve. We will not hide what happened. We will say it plainly. We picked the wrong heir, we ignored the right one, and now we are fixing it. She let that hang. Young designers, she said, need to know this company cares more about ideas than last names. Staff need to know we will not ask them to sign away their voices like I had to at 18. Customers need to see that we hold our own to account when they cheat. She put the remote down. You can keep pretending this is a storm that will blow over, she said. Or you can turn it into the moment we changed. Silence weighed heavy. Then Mr. Daniels spoke. I vote yes, he said. We either jump forward or die slowly. I would rather jump with someone who has already landed on her feet once. One by one, votes followed. A few no, a few abstentions. More yes. Alexander counted. Then he stood. By majority vote, he said, voice thick. Isabella Winthrop is named heir to the Winthrop House and future chair of Winthrop Jewelry Holdings. The room exhaled. Some clapped. Maya's muffled squeak of joy came from the side. Alexander walked to the lectern. Up close, the years showed on his face. I failed you, he said quietly, so only she could hear. I let anger be louder than love. I do not know if you can forgive that. I do not know if I can forget, she answered. But I can move forward, with or without you. He nodded once. Then let me at least walk beside you while I can, he said. He lifted her hand and placed it over the pendant. Carry it properly this time, he said, louder. Not as a punishment, but as a promise. The company's photographer snapped pictures that would become the front page of every business site in the city. Later, on the balcony, Isabella looked out at the winter sky. The city lights below were a mirror of the stars above. Nicholas joined her. Officially dangerous, he said. How does it feel? Heavy, she said. But in the right way. You know this is the start, not the end, he said. There will be fallout, lawsuits, whispers. Then let them whisper, she said. I am not hiding anymore. 6 months later, the launch of Starlight by Winthrop turned a Brooklyn warehouse into a constellation. String lights hung from steel beams. Display cases glowed like planets. The guest list mixed old money with new voices. At the center, under a skylight, one case held the original pendant. Not for sale. Not locked away. Just present. Isabella moved through the crowd in a white suit, the pendant at her throat. People stopped her with questions and congratulations. A young designer grabbed her hand. Your story changed everything for me, she said. Watching you take your work back, it made me believe I could fight too. Then fight, Isabella said. And when you win, hold the door open for someone else. At the edge of the room, Alexander watched with quiet pride. Maya guarded the press corner, keeping questions in line. Sales numbers on Nicholas's phone climbed by the minute. He found a gap in the crowd and crossed to Isabella. Pre-orders beat our highest projections, he said. Investors are thrilled. Tell them not to get used to easy wins, she said. We are still rebuilding trust. Nicholas's gaze softened. Speaking of rebuilding, he said. How are they? Agnes manages a small boutique, Isabella said. Her boss called for references. We told the truth. He hired her anyway. She answers to someone now. That may be the one lesson she needed. And Sierra? He asked. She lives with roommates in Queens, Isabella said. She opened an online shop. Her pieces are rough, but they are hers. A small shrug. It is a start. You checked, Nicholas said. Old habits, Isabella replied. He took a breath, reached into his jacket, and pulled out a small velvet box. She blinked. You cannot be serious, she said. Very, he answered. The music kept playing. The party did not stop. But the space around them seemed to tighten as a few people realized what was happening. Nicholas opened the box. Inside, a ring of white gold and tiny sapphires, echoing the 531 pattern. I watched you fight for your name, he said softly. I watched you refuse to let them define you. I do not want to own you or rescue you. I just want to walk beside you while you do whatever comes next. He did not kneel. He simply held out the ring. Will you let me? He asked. In another life, Isabella might have said she had no time, no room for anything but work and war. In this one, she had already burned the old map. Yes, she said. The ring slid onto her finger and settled like it had always been meant to be there. Maya cheered. Someone clapped. Alexander shook his head, smiling. Later, Isabella took the small stage. Thank you for being here, she said into the microphone. You already know more about my family than I ever planned to share. The pendant, the fake heir, the stolen designs. It has been loud. Laughter rolled through the room. Revenge brought me back to this house, she said. It put this pendant around my neck again. But revenge is not what keeps me moving. She touched the jade lightly. What keeps me moving, she said, is knowing every person here has had something taken from them. A chance, a voice, a story. The question is not whether it was fair. The question is what you do when you finally get the chance to take it back. She looked over the crowd, over young designers and old clients, over cameras and friends. You can spend your life staring at the people who hurt you, she said. Or you can turn around and build something they can never touch. She lifted her hand. The pendant and ring caught the light. This collection is my answer, she said. Starlight by Winthrop is not a brand about a dynasty fixing its image. It is about a girl who was told she was careless and unworthy, deciding she gets to write the ending. Applause crashed over her. Near the door, half hidden, Agnes watched. She should not have been there. No one stopped her. For a moment she considered leaving. Then Isabella's gaze brushed the edges of the room and found her. They looked at each other. No guards, no shouting, no dramatic scene. Isabella inclined her head once. Not welcome. Not forgiveness. Acknowledgement. Agnes's throat tightened. She slipped back into the cold night, carrying regret instead of diamonds. Isabella turned back to those who were hers now. To stolen things returned, she said, lifting a glass. To names reclaimed. To everyone here who has been told they were too much or not enough. She smiled, bright and sharp. May we all take back our starlight. Glasses rose. Crystal chimed. Outside, the city glowed. Somewhere in a small apartment in Queens, a woman bent over a cheap desk, sketching clumsy but honest designs, trying to learn what it meant to create instead of copy. The world kept turning. But in the center of one bright room, the true heir of the Winthrop family stood with a pendant against her skin and a future in her hands, ready for whatever storms would come next, no longer afraid of the dark garden where it had all begun.
Thanks for watching. Follow for more romance stories.